6 steps to becoming a prosperity magnet. 6 steps to becoming a prosperity magnet. That is our topic for today. We are going to be learning from Jacob, and our text is derived from Genesis 27 all the way to 36. As we all know, Jacob is Esau's brother, and his father is Isaac, his mother is Rebekah. In Genesis 27, Jacob has stolen the blessing, the firstborn blessing from his brother Esau, and Esau is angry with him. In Genesis 28, Isaac advises his son Jacob to go to Padan Aram to live with Uncle Laban and to marry the daughters of Uncle Laban. Jacob obeys. He goes to Padan Aram. The only thing he in his possession is the stuff in his hands. He has no money in his pocket. He has no wealth. He has nothing at all. When he arrives in Padan Aram, Uncle Laban makes him to work for him, to tend the sheep, to tend the livestock. He marries the two daughters, Leah and Rachel. He serves 14 years for Leah and Rachel. At the end of the day, he has served Uncle Laban 20 years. And he decides he's going back home. After 20 years, he's going back home. The first thing he has to do is to say sorry. So we're saying the first step towards becoming a prosperity magnet, say sorry. He's going to say sorry to his brother Esau. So as he journeys, he starts to prepare a gift that he's going to give to his brother Esau. He does not know how angry Esau is with him, and he's very frightened. But to his relief, he realizes that his brother is not angry with him at all when Esau comes to him and hugs him and kisses him. And both of them, they cry. And Esau says, "What is this?" And he says, "I've been planning to give you a gift to tell you how sorry I am." And Esau says, "No, I do not need anything from you. I'm a wealthy man." But he says, "No, I insist. Please just accept the gift from me so that you can know that indeed I'm sorry." So the first step towards becoming a prosperity magnet, say I'm sorry, make amends, which is what we are learning from Jacob. Step 2, self-discipline. Those 20 years that Jacob has worked for Uncle Laban, he has exercised self-discipline, taking care of the sheep, suffering from the vagaries of weather. He talks of the frost. He says he forced his eyes to stay open. While he wanted to sleep, he would stay awake to take care of the sheep. Self-discipline, working without supervision. Step 2, self-discipline. Step 3, service delivery. Those 20 years he worked for Laban. Laban robbed him of his wage. 10 times he changed his wages. He exploited him. He made sure that he suffered. But Jacob continued to deliver, service delivery. He continued to work very hard, to the extent that Laban noticed the difference and said, "I've actually noticed that ever since you came to work for me, my livestock has multiplied." So Laban admitted that Jacob was good at his work. Service delivery, step 3. Step 4, staying power. Working 20 years for a man who exploits him, for a man who made him suffer, for a man who did not care about his comfort. Staying power, 20 years. He had changed his money 10 times, his wages 10 times. But Jacob stayed on until 20 years later he said, "Now I've had it. I can now go back home." And he talked to his wives, his concubines, his children, and told them, "Your father has exploited me these 20 years. He has changed my wage 10 times. Now it is time for me to go home. If it weren't for the God that I serve, I would be a poor man. But now I'm very wealthy until my cousins, Laban's sons, have started talking about me and complaining about me and saying that I've stolen the wealth of their father." Staying power. Step 5, sacrifice. Sacrificing sleep, sacrificing comfort, suffering under the vagaries of weather. Sometimes it's frost, Sometimes it is harsh weather and sleep, depriving himself of sleep. That is Jacob, sacrificing for the sake of Laban's livestock so that his uncle would not experience loss. Sometimes the animals, the wild animals, would devour one of the sheep or one of the livestock. Jacob would compensate quickly with a flock, with a sheep from his own flock, so that his uncle would not experience any loss. He would sacrifice. Style. Step 6, style. Jacob developed a method of working. While he was busy tending the sheep for Laban, he managed to create his own flock. He managed to managed to manipulate the breeding of the animals, so that he ended up having flock alongside those ones for Laban. He also had his own flock. That is why the cousins started to say, Jacob has taken all the livestock that belonged to our father, and now the livestock belongs to him. It's because he had managed to develop a style that manipulated the breeding of the animals, so that he ended up having stronger animals than the ones for Uncle Laban. Style. So at the end of the day, we find that Jacob has become a very wealthy man. He buys a parcel of land for 100 pieces of silver from a man called Hanan in Shechem, so that he can build his homestead there. Then again, we are told that Esau and Jacob shared a piece of land in Canaan, but then there came a time when they agreed that they would part ways because the grass and the land could not handle the livestock. Too many livestock from Jacob, too many livestock from Esau. So Esau agreed to move to Mount Seir. He's the father of the Edomites. He went and settled at Mount Seir to stay away from the brother. They were still very good friends, very good brothers, very close to each other, but because their livestock had increased tremendously, they had to part ways. This is an indication of wealth. So indication of wealth, Jacob having so much property, having the wives, the children, the concubines, the livestock, the men servants, and the maid servants. An indication of wealth, Jacob buying that parcel of land for 100 pieces of silver and building. So today we are learning from Jacob, and we are saying, for us to become prosperity magnets, self-discipline, service delivery, staying power, sacrifice, saying we are sorry, and having style. Developing a style of working that sets us apart from everybody else, that gives us productivity that is of a much higher level than everybody else around us. Developing a style that brings in the money, that makes us a prosperity magnet. Saying we are sorry. We are all not perfect. Jacob was not perfect. We are also not perfect. We may have erred, or we may have offended somebody at some point, and that offense could be the one hindering our prosperity. It is time to say we are sorry. It is time to make amends. Self-discipline. How do we work? Do we wait to be supervised? Or do we know how to discipline ourselves? Do we know how to deprive ourselves of sleep? Do we know how to persevere? Service delivery. How do we work? Do we go beyond? Are we excellent in service delivery? Do we tell ourselves we need to improve? Or do we need constant supervision and constant pushing? Staying power. Do we know how to persevere? Do we know how to endure? Or do we throw in the towel? Jacob endured under the hands of a harsh taskmaster. He endured 20 years of labor. He never once complained until the day he was living with his family. That's when he talked to Uncle Laban and said, "You've changed my wage 10 times. I've worked under harsh conditions. The weather has not been favorable at all. And yet I've been here working for 20 years. Jacob had come from a wealthy home. Two of them only at home, Esau and himself. Just the two of them. He was not used to suffering. But when he went to Uncle Laban, he had to suffer and he learned to endure. Do we have staying power? Or do we throw in the towel? After the first attempt, 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 2 years? Do we say, I've had it? Or do we continue and press on? Stay in power. Sacrifice. Jacob sacrificed his sleep. He said he'd want to sleep, but his body would want to sleep, but he would force himself to stay awake so that the cattle and the sheep and the livestock would be safe, to protect the sheep from the devouring animals. And if in case one sheep was taken away or devoured by another animal, he would compensate Uncle Laban with his own sheep from his own flock, to ensure that his Uncle Laban would not experience any loss. How is it for us? Do we sacrifice? Do we go ahead to sacrifice, saying we are sorry? Do we make amends? We have wronged somebody. We've offended somebody. That guilt is eating us at us. Do we make amends? Making amends, saying we are sorry, will help us towards getting to become prosperity magnets. Style. Have we developed a method of working? Have we developed a style that helps us to become that prosperity magnet? Have we, all these years we've been working, have we come up with a style that sets us apart from everybody else, so that we work hard and we work smart to become prosperity magnets? Do we work under supervision, or do we work without supervision? Do we go beyond? Do we offer excellent service? Do we have staying power? Do we know how to endure? Do we know how to sacrifice? Do we sacrifice our comfort? Do we sacrifice our sleep? Do we sacrifice self-discipline? How do we take care of ourselves? How do we work? Do we wait for someone to say, you have to do this or you have to do the other? So this is our message. This is the message for us today. We are learning from Jacob. He was a man imperfect like ourselves, making mistakes, offending others, but he knew how to make amends. He knew how to say he's sorry. He was a man like ourselves, with a harsh taskmaster, but he endured. He had staying power. He sacrificed. He had self-discipline. So today we are learning from Jacob, and we are challenging ourselves and saying, for us to become prosperity magnets, self-discipline. For us to become prosperity magnets, service delivery. For us to become prosperity magnets, staying power. For us to become prosperity magnets, sacrifice. For us to become prosperity magnets, saying we are sorry. For us to become prosperity magnets, having style. Thank you very much for listening to me. I wish you all a happy and prosperous 2024. As you go through this message and as you listen, kindly share, subscribe, like, comment, and welcome to the world of prosperity magnets. Welcome to the world of prosperity magnets. Welcome to the world of prosperity magnets. Bye-bye.